19 minutes before the top of the hour, it's 6 weeks before the Economic Freedom Fighters 2019 elective conference, which will be held at Nasrec in the south of Johannesburg in December. During yesterday's site visit to the venue, the EFF leadership said they're expecting about 4,500 national delegates. Addressing the media, EFF leader Julius Malema thanked senior members of the party for exercising restraint and not discussing internal matters with what he called the hostile media. EFF spokesperson Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi is here with us to talk to us. Good to have you. Welcome.
Thank you, and good morning to you and the viewers at home.
Fantastic. So how are things ahead of the elective conference? How are things happening within the internal ranks of the EFF?
Well, as the CIC indicated yesterday, we are very pleased with the disciplined way in which all the members of the EFF have conducted internal democratic elections to elect not just leaders at branches across the country, but also delegates that are going to conference. We're also very pleased with the ways in which the conversations amongst themselves are happening as to what should happen at the December conference. And we've only cautioned that the same maximum discipline must continue until the final hour. We shouldn't be discussing our internal affairs, particularly with the media, because the media has made it, in their majority, its business to deliberately misunderstand, misinterpret us, and these days it looks like they are really looking up for a big fight, which is not going to happen.
Okay, let's not fight today. Let not this be the start of the fight.
Not with you. They are hoping that there can be a fight within the EFF, but it won't happen.
So the media is speculating, because there's a lot of speculation that's happening. I mean, we can start with one or two of them, and perhaps maybe you can take us and give us a bit of clarity on that. For the leadership position, for the top leadership position, obviously we've wondering if the EFF leader, Julius Malema, is going to go in for a second term. Some are saying that perhaps Dali Mpofu may take that position. But again, that's media reports. So what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, those are baseless speculations, because unlike in other organizations, nomination processes happen at conference in the EFF. They don't happen at a branch, at a regional or provincial level. So the first time anybody is going to be asked the question, who would you like to nominate for a specific position, is at conference itself. So those questions are only ever going to be asked and answered in conference. And so you won't know until that day. But what is nice is that the session in relation to nomination of leadership and acceptance of those nominations is going to be opened up for the public and the media. Not the public, the media. So our people will watch it. If it will be broadcasted on social media platforms, on some of the media outlets that will be there. It will be an open session, so you will only know then as to who will be available for what position.
Yeah, so you obviously don't want to address these media reports that are coming out, because another report coming out that we could see Gehrig being dropped from the top 6 of the party, and that, you know, there seems to be a little bit of a relationship tussle between whether it be Dali Mpofu, Gehrig, and Julius Malema.
No, this is a due conference. The constitution of the EFF has called for this conference. It's not a conference we call because we're tired of someone. Every 5 years, it's been 5 years since this leadership collective has been leading together. If any of them say they are not available, or if any of them say, nah, it's 5 years, my time is done, I don't want, it doesn't mean they are being dropped. So I'm trying to prepare the people of South Africa. There's no dropping. Every term of office in the EFF in relation to the national leadership is 5 years. They can renew, they can say they are not available, but I can tell you now without a shadow of doubt, in the last 5 years, that leadership has been the most united, the most effective, and it's going to be like that until the final hour. So as to what happens at the conference, that's what conference does. That's what it ought to do. That's what a democratic organization that is based on the individual delegates will. There's going to be private, there's going to be ballots that are going to be conducted in secret by each and every individual. who is a delegate in that conference, will express themselves on all of us will be subjected to a ballot, not just the top 6, but also the additional members.
Yeah. So yesterday, Leader Malema said that the branches have been audited, all disputes have been resolved as we sit right now, yes, ahead of December. What are the kind of disputes that were happening within some of the branches?
Well, some of them had to do with some people saying that their membership was not included, or that the certain meetings did not meet the quorum, and so would look into the evidence, and then upon whatever finding, if we find that indeed there was no quorum, would then subject the branch to go back to a re-election. If membership had been removed or whatever the case might be, missing, whatever, if we find that there are any substance to the claims that would have been made, then you restart the process. All of that has been done. There were not major disputes, and that's why they've all been smoothly resolved and we're ready for conference.
Yeah. Again, I go back to another media report, this time in the City Press and the Sunday Times, both talking about Lungile Gabuza. Mm-hmm. And, she's a member who was sort of up for the position to go into Parliament, but then was told to resign and move aside so that somebody else can take that position. She, of course, is defying the party saying, if you defy us, you're out. This is an instruction from the top, but she says she's worked really hard to get here. What's going on here?
Well, there are two things that are important there. One is there's a disciplinary process internally that takes place. Such a disciplinary process can only be decided upon by the Central Command team. So after a DC sits, its report must serve at the Central Command team, and only then can a decision be communicated to the person. That had not happened when those papers wrote that story. So I think somebody somewhere is panicking. The reality of the matter is that before you join the EFF, it is written in its constitution and the founding manifesto that we are a democratic centralism-based organization. If you are surprised by decisions of the higher structure on any question, you shouldn't bother joining us. That's how all of us who join the EFF subject ourselves to, is that there is command and control. Decisions of the higher structure are binding on the lower structure. Decisions of the collective are binding on the individual. We can debate within, but at the end, whatever decision we take, even those who disagreed are bound by the decision because it's the decision of the collective. So if you're surprised by those things with the EFF, then you are dealing with a party you don't understand. So whatever decision that is going to be taken there, it will be binding because it will be a decision of the higher structure. So and we make no apology about that.
Don't come into the EFF with expectations. The decision
will
be
made
made
for you. Do not join
for
something that you don't understand. Do not join something that you do not have not read what it's about. And when those things that they've said in the Constitution happen, you then throw tantrums and go all over. That's what the EFF is. The decisions of the higher structure are binding on the lower structures. Decisions of the collective are binding on the individuals. No individual member, because of their individual personal ambition and personal pursuit, that doesn't reign above the collective at all.
All right. So, I mean, let's leave that issue and leave it. But actually, let me ask you about the disciplinary that was held for that. What was that all about? The disciplinary into this particular member, Lungile Gabuza.
Well, as you said, she obviously defied any instruction about the reshuffling of the list in Parliament, which happens in the wisdom of the organization because you always have to balance the caucus. You didn't get 400 names. You didn't get 400 seats. There were 400 names, or actually 200 names that were submitted, and then 200 others that came from provinces. So when you get 44, you have to renegotiate the collective in relation to the capabilities that are there, the contribution of skills. You know what you need in the caucus. And from time to time, you've got to balance that caucus. And all of us have to subject ourselves to the wisdom of the leadership in that regard. So if you say, no, who didn't work hard? All of us worked hard for the elections. That's not the reason. The EFF is ran by a leadership that was duly elected, and we all have to subject ourselves to that wisdom. Okay,
well, let's leave that particular issue there. Let's move on to other issues. So the 2019 general elections really brought about some massive growth in this party. It really was a great election for the EFF going forward, increasing seats from 31 to 53. What is the party strategy now?
Well, as I said, we will be publishing discussion documents that will be raising a variety of policy proposals in relation to health, energy, telecommunications, the land, agriculture, and our general attitude to the fourth industrial revolution that is upon us. And all these issues are going to be discussed to renew not only the mandate of the leadership collective, but also where the direction of the party should what direction of the party should take for the next 5 years. We want to grow very significantly in the next coming local government elections. As you saw yesterday, part of the big questions that are now being debated inside the organization is why are we not availing a candidate for mayoral leadership in Johannesburg?
Yes.
Because we feel that we have been on the corner, we have been on the fringes. Now we feel very ready to lead. We understand what ought to happen. We understand because we've been in the opposition benches long enough. We understand the intricacies, and we want a chance to also be on the driving seat and lead government. So these are the things that they are going to be extensively discussed, but they are going to be those discussions are going to be grounded on discussions document that should be released in the next 10 days or so.
So can we expect a couple of surprises coming out of this? Because I mean, particularly when you meet at the conference, we possibly could have a new EFF leadership. As you say, this is all a secret. People are doing this very much so against, in their own sort of taking themselves into their own confidence. It is a secret vote that comes through. So at this conference coming up in December, we could see a very, very different EFF to what we know.
No, the EFF will always be the same. Remember,
No,
the EFF
leadership
is a set.
the leadership
Oh,
what I'm
absolutely.
talking
A lot of changes may happen indeed. That's the nature of terms of offices. Terms of offices promise changes. People say, I've done my part. People say, I'm still available. People say, let me do a different role. You could see a different spokesperson. You could see a different leadership altogether. So indeed, you should be prepared, I think, for those changes. But what the change that won't happen, certainly, as a matter of fact, is that the EFF will always be an organization that believes in the 7 non-negotiable cardinal pillars. Land, expropriation without compensation, that won't change. Nationalization of mines, banks, and other strategic, that won't change. Building state capacity so that ultimately we do away with tenders, that won't change. So the policy positions in relation to the founding manifesto are not going to change.
Yeah. Let's talk about the DA.
Yes.
What do you make about what's going on inside the ranks of the DA? We saw a very, very big week last week in the Democratic Alliance. Mmusi Maimane gone, Herman Mashaba gone, Athol Trollip gone, Helen Zille back. What do you make of it? John Steenhuisen throwing his cap in to perhaps take over the leadership of the party. What do you make of what's going on?
Well, first of all, we've already indicated our disappointment at the departure of Herman Mashaba in Johannesburg. We think that the guy was up to something very good for particularly the poor citizens or residents of Johannesburg. It was also very disappointing when Mmusi Maimane departed in the way that he did. But as the president of the EFF indicated yesterday, there is an important definitive event which changed the life of Mmusi Maimane as the leader of the EFF. It was the question to Ramaphosa that exposed the funders of the CR17 campaign. That house of cards, which after Maimane wrote that letter, exposed those things, Helen Zille came out and said that was wrong, that was a stupid move. Tony Leon came out and said that was wrong, that was the same Tony Leon who was in the panel of review that said it was wrong for the EFF and the DA to work together and all those things, and ultimately led to the demise of Maimane. And what was important there is that the same funders that are being exposed, that Maimane basically exposed, are the same people who fund the ANC, who funded the CR17 campaign. And for all of us who are in political funding, one of the most important things those people like to say a lot is that, no, but why don't you work with Cyril? Since Zuma fell in the ANC, majority of those people, the one thing they like to say Why don't you work with Cyril? Why don't you work with Cyril? And this may very well be the same thing that they said to my money, that why don't you work with Cyril? Cyril is our man. And because my money was not conceding to that, and you must listen to him, you must listen to Herman Mashaba, you must listen to some of those black people in the DA. They are not willing to buy the idea that there must be any working relationship with the ANC. They believe that they are supposed to be taking the ANC out of power. But the funders of the DA, the funders who are at the center of the CR17 campaign, like to say, you know, why don't you, Cyril is our man. There must be a working relationship with him. So they are not going to accept any leader inside the DA who defies them. And that's basically what has happened with my money. My money wanted the ANC to go out. At the moment, the DA is not interested in Cyril Ramaphosa being disrupted, in the ANC that is led by Cyril Ramaphosa going out of power. So they're going to be a lapdog. They're going to be a darling for the next 5 years of the African National Congress.
So if we look at the opportunities that exist now for the EFF, do you think that with what's happening within the ranks of the DA and with some of these leadership problems, even though we've been told there are no problems, you know, what we're seeing is just a few people resigning and moving, but the reality is that that's still fine, everything's still going well. What do you think this does for you? Does this bode well for the EFF? Do you think you can take a couple of these votes?
No, it's not. It's not very good to weaken opposition in democratic South Africa. It's actually a very sad day that the DA is under. They will take a very long time to recover from the type of damage they're going through now. It's not good that opposition is being weakened in the way it is, because the reality of the matter is that so is the ANC. It's not going to recover anytime soon from the 57% that they attained this year. Their direction is going down. So it's not good that opposition is being weakened. But at least the people of South Africa can pin their hopes on the growing and the rising star of the EFF. We're not going to be disrupted by Cyril Ramaphosa. We're not going to be disrupted, you know, by those bunch of neoliberal stooges, as it were. So our positions are going to even come out more crystal clear than they have been before. There's going to be a proper sharpening of contradictions, because the ideas that we hold about the direction of South Africa are fundamentally different to what these people, both in the DA at the moment, are going to, as well as in the ANC. The ANC and the DA are caught up in repetition of the last 25 years. And the EFF is the only political party, unfortunately, that is presenting a new strategic direction for not just the economy, but the entire social fabric of South Africa.
Just finally, as we close up, I just want to take a comment from one of our viewers who's come forward and after listening to the interview has asked us, and it's Rose Palesa, saying, basically what Ndlozi is saying is that Malema is a dictator. His decisions cannot be challenged. And I think that goes back to what you were saying about, you know, it's a command and control. That's pretty much so.
It is the most mediocre view and logic we have to hear on such a beautiful morning. Which decisions of Malema can be challenged? These are decisions of the collective. These are decisions of all who are in the EFF, who are given a leadership responsibility. I mean, Malema is going to be subjected to a ballot in December. I think she should probably read the dictionary. She will find a proper definition of dictator, and that's definitely not what's happening in the EFF. I'm sorry.
Let's leave it there. Thank you for talking to us.
I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure speaking to you here on the program. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, talking to us about the EFF's 2019 elective conference coming up in December. The media were there yesterday, went on a visit, and as you heard, there'll be no talk about what's happening. What happens in December, and we'll wait to see what we can expect. But then again, anything can happen, and that's what you hear here on the program. It's 7 o'clock. Let's get your news from Sakina.